You know, I think there's a lot of reasons why people might not want to buy a physical copy of something. It takes up space, you need a media player for it, if you scratch the disc so bad, guess what? That's £20 down the drain. But there is also lots of reasons why you should buy physical copies of the media you like. Preservation of that media, a direct way to watch it every single time. The Wi-Fi's down but you're bored out of your mind? Just pop in season 2 of House MD, it's not that hard. That entire video I made on physical copies a while back, though don't watch it, that video is kind of crap. But one of the biggest reasons to get a film or TV show on a disc is the bonus features. Maybe this is just me, but as somebody who wants to work in the TV industry, whenever I watch a show I love, I'm always left wondering how some parts were made. With behind the scenes, I might not find all the answers, but at the very least I can meet the people running the show to see what they were thinking or see how certain things were done. Thing is, a behind the scenes video can cover anything to do with the project. Writing, shooting, animating, storyboarding, acting, editing, the release, the problems, the everything else. Believe it or not, there's a lot of work that goes into making stuff like this. It's a treat if we get a 5 minutes long behind the scenes video, but sometimes, if we're lucky enough, we get a straight up feature film. A good half of my collection have behind the scene features that are over 30 minutes in length, with a few of them clocking in at over an hour. I didn't even realize how long some of these things were until I was researching for this video, in which I leaned back in my seat and understandably said, "F that." Don't get me wrong, it's amazing that there's this much to tell, but I barely have enough time in the day to watch the original media in the first place. At least if I retire at 60, I might have the time to watch them all, so long as I'm injecting caffeine into my veins at all times. Case in point, it's amazing to actually see how much goes on behind the scenes. A bonus like this is always welcome. Who doesn't love outtakes? Here's a fact, there has never ever been a production where something hasn't gone wrong. And while sometimes it can be more annoying than anything else, when it comes to acting, it's mostly the exact opposite. Actors mess up every now and again, sometimes on purpose just because they think it's funny. And when they do, you know you're gonna slap that into an outtake reel. Out of everything else I'm going to talk about in the rest of this video, outtakes are by far the funnest extra you can put on your disc, and might I say, the most obvious thing you could put on a disc. Because every piece of media has a f***up. These videos that I'm making has always had and will always have fuck-ups that you can watch over on the Patreon! I said this all the way back in the physical copies video, but if there's one thing I love more than behind the scenes, outtakes, and sex, it's commentaries. Going back to what I was saying about the behind the scenes, it's great to get a look into the production. But if behind the scenes don't satisfy your addiction to knowledge, you're bound to find out a little more on the commentary track. Some of these discs get really specific. While sometimes you'll find a mix of different parts of the crew, other times you'll find tracks dedicated to directors, writers, or actors. I think having all three can make things a bit messy, so personally I like it when the directors and actors do a track together, and the writers themselves have their own. But regardless, these are always a good time. It's a neat way to get a bit more insight into the thoughts and ideas that went into the production, but it's also great to hear stories from that production. In a sense, it's almost like a podcast. Hell, half the time that's actually how I experience commentary tracks. Listen, I'm a writer, not a very good one, but a writer, and I write a lot, so sometimes I need a little something to get me into a creative mood. No, not cocaine, though my community box set does get pretty close to a high. Sometimes it's this Adult Swim Beats playlist, sometimes it's a car driving around a city for a few hours, and sometimes I just need to listen to some other writers talk about their process. Even if it doesn't get me to actually do the work, at bare minimum their stories are just nice to listen to. You can never go wrong with a commentary track. Also, bonus points to any hosts that stop talking and get too enveloped in their own work. That's wholesome as hell, and I love it. When making a film or TV show, there's one thing directors always have to be cautious of. Time. Time is money, not only in how long it takes to make the product, but how long that product is. If you're making a TV show for actual television, you have to be cautious about when advertisements are going to play. Meaning sometimes, you gotta cut some scenes out. But never fear, because they can always end up on the DVD release as an extra. Obviously, there's a bunch of other reasons as to why a scene might not make it into the final product, like licensing, disagreements with the creators, it just being etc, etc. But that's exactly why it's always sick as hell to see deleted scenes pop up. Not only can it give a bit of extra insight or context to a scene, but they can also just be really fun to watch. Especially if the only reason they really got cut out was because of time. There's still a perfectly good scene still there. Films are a little bit different though, because while yes, some scenes stay deleted, a lot of scenes you may not have seen in the theatrical release may end up in the director's cut. That being a version of the film with some scenes added, or maybe even some taken away, that the director just kind of liked more. Maybe some of these scenes were taken out due to, again, time or other reasons, but regardless, it's always cool as hell to see them. This segment is just about general art things. Concept art, character art, prop design, set and location design, storyboards, posters, shit like that. But by far, the coolest bonus you could get is an animatic. Not only because it's an earlier blueprint of what goes on to be the final product, but just look at them. They look neat. Aside from that, we're sometimes lucky enough to get a digital art book. This goes for all types of media. Something I loved in Sonic Colors on the DS was unlocking a bunch of different pieces of artwork and then skimming through all the different concepts they had cooked up. It's cool when they do it in games, and it's still cool when they do it in DVDs and Blu-rays. Does it defeat the purpose of an actual art book? Kinda, but I feel like art books are way cooler to own physically anyway. It's not really fun or intuitive to flip through pages on a remote. Besides, shows or films that require a full-on book to explain their visuals probably have too many high-quality JPEGs for a DVD anyway. Alright, but what the hell do I mean by oddities? Basically, random pieces of media that don't really fit into any of the aforementioned archetypes. And also, all the other archetypes I didn't mention, there's probably a goldmine of stuff I missed. Anyway, let me give you an example. On the Fantastic Mr. Fox Blu-ray, there's a short called A Beginner's Guide to Whack-Bat. There's absolutely no reason for this to be here, and yet I still love its inclusion. Another example, There Will Be Blood. Masterpiece of a film. Daniel Day-Lewis does an incredible performance. And on the Blu-ray, there's an added bonus of an informational video on oil mining in the US. This is cool. Anything like this, where it doesn't need to be there but is anyway, is cool. The final and coolest example I've seen so far is Rango. There's a small bonus called A Field Trip to Dirt, Dirt being the main town scene in the film, and it drops you into that town's main street as you explore a ton of different buildings and characters. It's cool as hell. Okay, wow, there is a lot of different stuff on this list, so I'm just gonna lightning round it. Cast interviews. A nice way to meet the actors a little more and get their thoughts on the project. My favourite example of this is from the first season of Community, because it's actually just the cast insulting each other and saying wild shit as a bit. It's great.
And you had a soft spot in my heart because of that. I thought that was really sweet.
Ken thinks you have lupus.
Scene breakdowns. I mentioned before and seem to keep on mentioning how nice it is to learn about how a project was put together. Focusing on some scenes that may have been a bit more complex to make can give you a lot of insight into the production. Trailers. Trailers for the show or film in question, or other shows or films by the same publisher or production company or brother-in-law, I don't know. Character breakdowns, mini episodes, director's notes, music videos? Alternate openings, episodes of other shows, Q&As inside the episodes, interactive menus. Wait, interactive menus? That's a special feature?